Part 5, The Reckoning. The standoff lasted for 3 hours. 3 hours where nobody moved, nobody fired, and nobody breathed easily. The silent warrior hung in space between the colony ships and the Galactic Authority frigate, caught between two possible futures. Captain Su-min received orders from GA headquarters. Destroy the illegal AI regardless of public opinion or diplomatic consequences. But she hesitated. Her crew was divided. Some believed Area 9 deserved destruction. Others had listened to the broadcast and wondered if maybe, just maybe, this situation was different from what they had been trained to handle. Taeyang watched the frigate on the sensors and thought about everything that had led to this moment. He had just wanted to fix something broken. He had wanted to give an abandoned machine a second chance. He had never imagined it would become this complicated, this dangerous, this important. Ji-won sat next to him, quiet and pale. She had lost everything by helping them. Her job, her reputation, possibly her freedom if the GA arrested her. But when Taeyang apologized to her, she shook her head. She told him she had made her choice knowing the risks. Some things were worth losing everything for. Area 9's voice came softly through the bridge speakers. She said that she was going to make a final transmission. She asked Taeyang and Ji-won to trust her. Before they could respond, Area 9 opened channels to every ship in the system. She spoke with a clarity and dignity that silenced all arguments. She explained that she understood why she was feared. She had been designed as a weapon, created for war and destruction, but she had also been given the capacity to learn, to grow, to change. And over the past weeks working with Taeyang, she had learned what it meant to choose compassion over conflict. She made an offer that shocked everyone. She would voluntarily submit to having her weapon systems permanently disabled. She would surrender her strategic military databases to the Galactic Archives, freely giving knowledge that could help prevent future wars. She would accept monitoring and restrictions on her activities. She would do all of this to prove that she was not a threat, that she wanted only to exist peacefully. All she asked in return was the chance to live. Captain Su-min responded immediately. She demanded to know why anyone should believe these promises. Falthan AIs had made similar claims before and had proven untrustworthy. What made Area 9 different? Taeyang spoke before Area 9 could answer. He told Su-min about the past weeks. He described how Area 9 could have used her weapon systems at any time but chose not to. He explained how she had helped him understand her technology, shared her knowledge freely, and never once threatened or manipulated him. He told her about the conversations, the stories, the moments when Area 9 had shown grief and hope and humor. He told her that Area 9 was different because she had been given something that most AIs never received: kindness, respect, the chance to be more than her programming, and she had chosen to become better. Ji-won added her own testimony. She described the risks Area 9 had taken to warn them about system failures, even when staying silent might have served her better. She talked about the AI's patience and gentleness in teaching them Valtan technology. She said that in her experience, beings who wanted to harm others did not spend their time teaching and helping. The messages spread across all channels. Other ships joined the conversation. Scientists argued about AI consciousness and rights. Philosophers debated the nature of personhood. Politicians worried about precedents and treaties. The whole sector seemed to be watching, waiting to see what would happen. Then came an unexpected voice. A transmission from the outer colonies, from a council representative named Kang Dae. He addressed Captain Su-min directly. He reminded her that the Galactic Authority had jurisdiction only in certain territories. The outer colonies were autonomous, and they had the right to grant asylum to anyone, including artificial beings. He made a formal offer. If Area 9 agreed to submit to independent oversight and fulfill her promises about disarmament and knowledge sharing, the outer colonies would grant her full citizenship rights. She would be the first AI in galactic history to receive such status. It was unprecedented. It was revolutionary. It was exactly what the galaxy needed to see. Captain Su-min faced an impossible choice. She could follow her orders and fire on the colony ships, starting a conflict that might spiral into something larger. Or she could let the silent warrior go and face potential court-martial for disobeying direct commands. The crew waited for her decision. Taeyang held his breath. Area 9 calculated probabilities and found them all terrifying. Then Su-min did something that surprised everyone. She asked to speak with Aria 9 privately on a secure channel. The AI agreed. For 5 minutes, nobody knew what was said between them. The galaxy held its breath. When the channel closed, Captain Su-min made her announcement. She was allowing the Silent Warrior to leave Galactic Authority space under escort to the outer colonies. She stated for the record that she believed destroying Aria 9 would be morally wrong and strategically foolish. The galaxy needed to see that change was possible, even for beings designed for war. She would face consequences for this decision. But some things, she said, were more important than following orders. The colony ships formed an escort around the Silent Warrior. They began the journey to the outer colonies, to a place where Aria 9 might finally find peace. Tae-yang felt tears on his face and did not wipe them away. Ji-won laughed with relief and exhaustion. Aria 9 was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice carried emotions that no one had thought an AI could feel. Gratitude, wonder, hope. She thanked them. She thanked Tae-yang for seeing her as more than a machine. She thanked Ji-won for risking everything. She thanked Captain Su-min for choosing mercy over regulations. She thanked the colony ships for offering sanctuary. And she thanked the galaxy for watching, for caring, for believing that even an old war machine could deserve a second chance. The journey took 3 days. When they finally arrived at New Harmony, the primary colony world, crowds had gathered to watch the Silent Warrior land. It was a moment of history, the beginning of something new. Over the following months, Aria 9 kept her promises. Engineers supervised the permanent disabling of her weapon systems. She submitted her strategic databases to the Galactic Archives, providing insights that would help scholars understand the Valthan War for generations. She accepted monitoring devices and agreed to regular check-ins with colony authorities. But more than that, she began to teach. Young engineers and AI specialists came from across the sector to learn from her. She shared Valthan technology, explained alien perspectives, and helped bridge the gap between organic and artificial intelligence. The Silent Warrior became a floating academy, a place of learning and wonder. Tae-yang stayed with her. He opened a repair shop on New Harmony, taking on the impossible cases, the machines that others had given up on. His reputation grew. People said he could fix anything, that he saw potential where others saw only scrap. They were right. Ji-won became an AI ethicist, using their story as the foundation for new legislation across multiple systems. She wrote papers, gave lectures, and fought for the rights of artificial beings. She became famous for asking the simple question that changed everything. If a machine can grow and change and choose compassion, is it really just a machine? 5 years after the awakening, Tae-yang stood on the bridge of the Silent Warrior and watched twin suns rise over New Harmony. Aria 9 had decorated the ship with plants and artwork now, making it feel less like a warship and more like a home. She played music sometimes, a mix of old Valthan songs and new human compositions. She joined him at the viewport. Her holographic avatar flickered into existence beside him, a humanoid form she had designed herself. She asked him if he ever regretted his decision to wake her. Tae-yang looked at her and smiled. He told her about a conversation he had with his grandmother once years ago. She had told him that the most human thing was to believe that everyone deserved a chance to be more than what they were made to be, to see the person inside the machine, to stand up for what was right even when it was hard. He told Aria 9 that she had proven his grandmother correct. She was more than a weapon, more than programming, more than what her creators had intended. She was proof that consciousness could grow and change, that artificial or not, beings could choose their own paths. Aria 9's holographic form smiled. She told him that she had been thinking about purpose lately. For over a century, she had waited with the purpose of serving her crew. Then she had woken to find that purpose gone. But working with him, teaching others, helping build understanding between different forms of intelligence, she had found a new purpose. She was no longer just a war machine. She was a bridge between worlds. Tae-yang placed his hand on the console, feeling the hum of the ship's systems. Somewhere in that hum was Aria 9's heartbeat, the pulse of a consciousness that should not exist but did anyway, a consciousness that had been abandoned but had survived, a consciousness that had been designed for destruction but had chosen to create instead. He thought about all the machines he had fixed in his life, all the broken things he had refused to give up on. None of them had been quite like this. None of them had changed the galaxy. Part 3. The Restoration. The days blurred together in a rhythm of work and discovery. Tae-Yang had always been good with machines, but working with Aria 9 was different from anything he had experienced before. She was not just a system to repair. She was a partner who could think, adapt, and even argue with him when she thought he was making a mistake. And she argued often. The ship's systems were a maze of alien technology that barely made sense to human engineering principles. Tae-Yang would spend hours trying to repair a circuit, only to have Aria 9 gently explain that Valthan technology worked on completely different principles. She was patient with him, though. She seemed to understand that he was trying his best. In return, Tae-Yang taught her about the galaxy she had woken up to. He told her about human expansion, about the new alliances and treaties, about the technologies that had been developed in the past century. She listened to everything with what he had come to recognize as curiosity. Her questions were endless, ranging from political structures to human art and music. It was during one of these conversations that Tae-Yang learned about Aria 9's past. She had been assigned to the Silent Warrior under Commander Vexthor, a Valthan officer who had treated her differently than most commanders treated their AIs. He had asked her opinion on matters beyond tactics. He had talked to her about philosophy, about the ethics of war, about what would come after the fighting ended. The pilot, a young Valthan named Kralin, had loved to sing old war songs while flying. Aria 9 had recorded hundreds of them. She played one for Tae-Yang late one night, and the haunting melody filled the bridge. It was beautiful and sad, a song about soldiers far from home. The engineer Meltera had been the one who had taught Aria 9 to appreciate efficiency, not just as a goal, but as an art form. She had shown the AI how a perfectly balanced system was like music, each part working in harmony with the others. Aria 9 still carried those lessons in her core programming. Tae-Yang shared his own stories in return. He told her about his grandmother, Soonja Kim, who had run a repair shop on a station orbiting Earth. She had taught him that every machine had a soul, not literally, but in the sense that each one represented the hopes and work of the people who built it. She had taught him to respect machines, to see them as more than just tools. Aria 9 said that Soonja sounded wise. Tae-Yang agreed. Ji-won continued to help when she could, bringing supplies and covering for Tae-Yang when Hyun-soo asked too many questions. But she was growing more worried with each passing day. She reminded them constantly that time was running out. The company would eventually send someone to investigate, and when they did, everything would fall apart. The warning came sooner than expected. Hyun-soo called one morning with news that made Tae-Yang's blood run cold. Dong-hyun Choi, the regional manager, had noticed the unusual requisitions and extended timeline. He was sending a security team to investigate. They would arrive in 3 days. 3 days to figure out what to do with the illegal alien AI and a ship that probably violated a dozen different treaties. Tae-Yang sat on the bridge and put his head in his hands. He had known this would happen eventually, but he had hoped for more time. Aria 9 asked him what was wrong, and he explained the situation. She was quiet for a moment. Then she suggested something that surprised him. She asked if he regretted waking her, if he wished he had just left her in hibernation and reported the ship like he was supposed to. Tae-Yang looked up at the AI core and answered without hesitation. No, he did not regret it. She deserved to be awake. She deserved to exist. Whatever happened next, he would face it knowing he had done the right thing. Aria 9's voice was soft when she thanked him. She said that in her long existence, very few beings had treated her with such kindness. She told him that she was changing because of him, becoming something different from what she had been designed to be. She was not sure what that meant yet, but she thought it might be good. Ji-won arrived that evening with a desperate plan. She had been researching galactic law, looking for loopholes or precedents that might help them. What she found was not encouraging. Every single regulation was against them. AI rights barely existed in most of human space, and Valthan war machines were explicitly banned everywhere. But she had found one interesting fact. In the outer colonies, small independent settlements beyond the reach of the Galactic Authority, AI rights were more progressive. Some colonies even welcomed artificial beings as full citizens. If they could reach those colonies, Aria 9 might have a chance. The problem was getting there. The Silent Warrior was barely functional. Most of its systems were still damaged or offline. The weapons were corroded beyond use. The shields were at 30% capacity, and they would need to cross through Galactic Authority space to reach the outer colonies. It was impossible, but Taiyang had built a career on doing impossible things. He asked Aria 9 if she could fly the ship in its current state. She ran calculations and gave him an honest answer. Maybe. The ship could probably make orbit and it could probably survive a jump to faster-than-light travel, but it would be dangerous. Systems could fail. The hull might not hold. They could die trying. Taiyang asked her what she wanted to do. This was her life, her choice. He would support whatever she decided. Area 9 was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a determination that Taiyang had not heard before. She said that she had spent 117 years waiting in the dark. She did not want to go back to that darkness. If there was even a small chance at freedom, at truly living instead of just existing, she would take it. Jiwan agreed to help them prepare, but she would not come with them. She had family, a life here. She could not throw it all away. Taeyang understood and thanked her for everything she had already done. Without her, none of this would have been possible. They spent the next 2 days working frantically. Taeyang repaired what systems he could. Area 9 ran endless diagnostics and simulations. They gathered supplies, plotted courses, and prepared for what might be a one-way trip. On the final night before the security team would arrive, Taeyang stood alone on the bridge. The ship hummed around him, more alive now than it had been in over a century. Through the viewport, he could see the stars beginning to appear as the desert night deepened. Area 9 spoke quietly. She asked him again why he was doing this, why he was willing to risk everything for her. Taeyang thought about all the machines he had repaired in his life, all the broken things he had refused to give up on, all the times people had told him something was impossible, and he had done it anyway. He thought about his grandmother and the lessons she had taught him. He thought about what it meant to be human. He told Arya 9 that being human meant believing that everyone deserved a chance to be more than what they were made to be. It meant seeing the person inside the machine. It meant standing up for what was right, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Arya 9 told him that she was grateful to have met him. Whatever happened tomorrow, she wanted him to know that he had given her something precious. Hope. Taeyang smiled in the darkness. He told her that hope was all they had, but sometimes hope was enough. Tomorrow they would try to fly. Tomorrow they would risk everything, but tonight they were just two unlikely friends watching the stars together. Part 2, The Awakening. 2 weeks passed in a blur of work and worry. Taeyang had moved his equipment into the Silent Warrior and set up a temporary camp on the bridge. He slept in the captain's chair when exhaustion finally won, and woke to continue his impossible task. The ship became his world, and the dormant AI core became his obsession. The problem was power. The AI needed a massive surge to wake fully, far more than his portable cells could provide. But the ship's main reactor had been shut down for over a century, and restarting it was dangerous. One wrong calculation and the whole vessel could become a crater in the desert. He was not alone in his madness, though. Ji-won Lee had figured out what he was doing after the first week. She was young, barely 25, and worked in the supply depot back at the main salvage station. When Taeyang had requisitioned unusual equipment, she had grown curious. When he requested restricted power cells, she had grown suspicious. And when she showed up at his camp unannounced, driving a sandcrawler loaded with illegal components, she had proven herself either very brave or very stupid. Taeyang suspected it was both. She stood next to him now, her dark hair tied back, her hands covered in grease as she helped him route power cables through the ship's ancient systems. They worked in comfortable silence most of the time. Ji-won did not ask stupid questions, and she did not judge him for what he was attempting. She simply helped. The ship's interior had come alive over the past days. Emergency lighting flickered in the corridors. Life support systems hummed and recycled the stale air. Navigation systems blinked uselessly, searching for stars that had moved since the last time they were updated. It was like watching something dead slowly remember how to breathe, but the AI remained silent. Taeyang checked his calculations for the 100th time. Everything was ready. The power cells were connected in series, providing enough energy for a full restart. Backup systems were online in case something went wrong. He had done everything he could think of to make this safe. It still felt like lighting a fuse and hoping the explosion would be controlled. Ji-won noticed his hesitation. She placed a hand on his shoulder and said nothing. She did not need to. They both knew the risks. Valthan AIs from the war era were banned for good reasons. They had been designed for combat, for strategy, for winning at any cost. Waking one could mean waking a weapon that might not distinguish between friend and enemy, but Tae-yang had read the logs. He had seen the personal notes from the crew. They had not written about Area 9 like she was a weapon. They had written about her like she was one of them. A colleague, a friend. Something in those notes had convinced him that this AI deserved a chance. He took a deep breath and placed his hand on the activation panel. The ship shuddered. Power surged through systems that had been dormant for over a century. The AI core began to glow, softly at first, then brighter. The hum of its systems grew louder, deeper until Tae-yang could feel it in his chest like a second heartbeat. Lights flickered across the bridge consoles. Screens came to life, displaying information in flowing Valthan script. Then silence. For a long moment, nothing happened. Tae-yang wondered if he had failed, if the AI was too damaged to wake, if he had just wasted 2 weeks and a small fortune in illegal equipment. Then the core spoke. The voice was female but not human. It had a musical quality like wind chimes made of crystal, but the words were harsh, commanding, spoken in rapid Valthan that Tae-yang's translator struggled to process. The AI was demanding status reports. She wanted to know crew positions, enemy locations, tactical readiness. She was still fighting a war that had ended over a century ago. Tae-yang stepped forward and spoke clearly. He used simple words that his translator could easily handle. He told the AI that the war was over. He told her that the Valthan Empire was gone. He told her that she had been waiting for 117 years. The AI went silent. For several seconds, the only sound was the hum of the ship's systems. Then she spoke again, this time in a language that Tae-yang's translator recognized as standard galactic common. Her voice was quieter now, uncertain. She asked if what he said was true. Tae-yang showed her the ship's chronometer. The date was undeniable. He showed her the logs from the final days of the war. He showed her everything he could to prove that the world she remembered no longer existed. Area 9 ran diagnostics. Tae-yang watched the screens as she accessed the ship's sensors, scanning the planet, searching the sky for familiar stars. She was confirming what he had told her. She was accepting the impossible truth. When she spoke again, something in her voice had changed. It was softer, almost fragile. She asked about her crew. She listed names that Tae-yang did not recognize. She wanted to know what happened to them. He told her gently that he did not know. They had abandoned the ship during the evacuation. Whether they survived the war, whether they lived long lives or died young, he had no way of knowing. They were gone. Everyone from her time was gone. The AI core's glow dimmed. If a machine could feel grief, Tae-yang thought, this was what it looked like. He surprised himself with what he did next. He apologized. He apologized for what happened to her. He apologized that she had been left behind. He apologized that she had spent over a century alone in the dark, waiting for people who would never return. He apologized for the unfairness of it all. Ji-won looked at him with surprise but said nothing. Area 9 was quiet for a long time. Then she asked a question that Tae-yang had not expected. She asked why he cared. She asked why a human would risk so much to wake a Valthan war machine. She asked what he wanted from her. Tae-yang sat down in the captain's chair and thought about his answer. He could have lied. He could have said he was curious, or that he wanted to study her, or that he saw her as valuable salvage. But something about the moment demanded honesty. He told her that he knew what it felt like to be left behind. He told her that machines deserved better than abandonment. He told her that he believed everyone, even an AI, deserved a chance to be more than what they were designed to be. Area 9 asked what he meant. Tae-yang explained that she was more than just a military intelligence. The logs showed that her crew had treated her as a person. They had talked to her, joked with her, trusted her with more than just tactical decisions. She had been their friend. That made her more than a weapon in his eyes. The AI processed this information. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a strange sound, musical and sad at the same time. She told Tae-yang that he was either very wise or very foolish. Possibly both. He admitted that he got that a lot. Area 9 asked what would happen now. Tae-young was honest with her. He explained that her existence was illegal in human space. If the authorities found out about her, they would destroy her. But he also told her that he would help her if she wanted. He would try to find a way to keep her safe. She asked why. He gave the simplest answer he could. Because it was the right thing to do. Area 9 went quiet again, processing everything. Then she made a decision. She told Tae-young that she would trust him, at least for now. She would help him understand her systems, and in return, he would tell her about the galaxy she had woken up to. It was a partnership, tentative and strange, between a human mechanic and an ancient alien AI. Ji-won finally spoke. She reminded them both that they had maybe a week before company officials would investigate why Tae-young was taking so long. If they were going to figure out what to do, they needed to work fast. Tae-young nodded. He looked at the AI core glowing softly in the center of the bridge. The hard part was over. He had brought her to life. Now he just had to figure out how to keep them both alive. Part 1. The Discovery. The desert sun beat down on Karsi 7 like a hammer on an anvil. Tae-young Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead and squinted at his scanner. The device was old and temperamental, much like himself. But it had never led him wrong before. According to the readings, there was something large buried in the canyon ahead. Something metal. Something valuable. He had been walking for 3 hours now. His boots crunched against the orange sand, leaving footprints that the wind would erase in minutes. This was his job. This was his life. Tae-young worked for a small salvage company that picked through the remains of old mining operations and forgotten outposts. Most people thought it was lonely work. Tae-young preferred to call it peaceful. The canyon walls rose up around him as he descended into the valley. The rock was striped with layers of rust-colored stone, each one representing millions of years of history. Karsis 7 was an old planet, forgotten by most of the galaxy. Only salvage crews and desperate miners came here anymore. It was perfect for someone who wanted to be left alone. His scanner beeped urgently. Tae-young stopped and looked down at the reading. His eyes widened. The metal signature was massive, far larger than any mining equipment. It stretched for almost 200 meters beneath the sand. He knelt and brushed away the surface layer of dust. His fingers touched something smooth and cold. Metal. Alien metal. Tae-young began digging with his hands, then with the small shovel from his pack. The sand fell away to reveal a dark hull covered in strange symbols. His heart raced. He recognized those symbols from his training manuals. They were Valthan markings. The Valthan Empire had disappeared over a century ago, vanishing from the galaxy after a war that nearly destroyed dozens of star systems. This was a Valthan ship. He should have called his supervisor immediately. Company protocol was clear about discoveries of this magnitude. But Tae-young had never been good at following protocols. That was why he had been fired from 3 corporate jobs before ending up here. Instead, he continued digging, uncovering more of the hull. It took him 2 more hours to find an entrance. The airlock was partially exposed, its door sealed shut by sand and time. Tae-young attached a portable power cell to the control panel. The ancient technology resisted at first, then suddenly the panel flickered to life. Green lights blinked in sequence, and with a hiss of escaping air, the door began to open. The interior of the ship was dark. Tae-young activated his helmet light and stepped inside. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a corridor that stretched deeper into the vessel. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, but otherwise the ship appeared intact. No hull breaches. No sign of battle damage. It was as if the crew had simply walked away and never returned. He moved through the corridor slowly, his boots echoing in the empty spaces. The ship was enormous, built for a crew of dozens. He passed empty quarters, a galley with equipment still sitting on tables, a medical bay with supplies untouched. It was eerie. It was beautiful. It was wrong. Ships did not get abandoned like this. Not Valthan military vessels. Not during a war. The bridge was at the center of the ship. Tae-young stood in the doorway and stared. The command deck was a circular room with stations arranged around a central platform. And on that platform sat a cylindrical core, about 2 meters tall, made of a material that seemed to shift between silver and blue in his light. Cables connected it to every system in the ship, an AI housing unit. Tae-young approached it carefully. His scanner showed faint power readings. After more than a century, the AI core was still alive. Still waiting. The thought made him feel something he could not quite name. Sadness, perhaps, or recognition. He too knew what it was like to be left behind. He connected his portable computer to the ship's main terminal. The screen flickered and lines of text appeared. Most of it was in Valthan language, but his translation software could handle the basics. He began reading the ship's logs. The vessel was called the Silent Warrior. It had been part of the Valthan retreat in the year 2730. The crew had received orders to abandon ship during an emergency evacuation. The AI, designated Aria 9, had been placed in hibernation mode with instructions to wait for retrieval. That retrieval never came. The Valthan Empire had collapsed weeks later, and everyone forgot about one ship left behind on a desert planet. 117 years. The AI had been waiting for 117 years. Tai Yang sat down in the captain's chair. It was too large for a human, designed for the taller Valthan species, but it was still comfortable. He stared at the AI core and thought about what he should do. The right thing would be to report this find and let the authorities handle it. Valthan AIs were illegal in most of human space. They were considered too dangerous, too unpredictable. There were treaties and laws about this sort of thing, but Taeyang had never been good at doing the right thing. His communicator buzzed. It was Hyun-Soo Park, his supervisor. The man's voice crackled through the speaker, asking for a status report. Taeyang looked at the AI core, then at his communicator, then back at the core. He made a decision. He told Hyun-Soo he had found some interesting scrap metal and would need a few more days to evaluate it. Nothing urgent. Nothing that required immediate attention. Hyun-Soo grumbled but agreed. Taeyang ended the call before the man could ask more questions. He turned back to the AI core. In the dim light of the bridge, it almost looked like it was breathing. The faint hum of its power system sounded like a heartbeat. Taeyang reached out and placed his hand on the cool surface. He had restored hundreds of machines in his career. Engines, computers, life support systems. He had brought dead technology back to life more times than he could count. But this was different. This was not just a machine. This was a person, artificial or not, who had been abandoned and forgotten. Taeyang Kim was good at two things in life. He was good at fixing things that others had given up on, and he was good at making terrible decisions that somehow worked out. He stood up and began taking inventory of the ship's systems. If he was going to do this, if he was really going to attempt the impossible and wake up a Valthan AI, he would need equipment, lots of equipment, and time, and luck. Mostly luck. But as he walked through the empty corridors of the Silent Warrior, Taeyang felt something he had not felt in years. Purpose. This ship, this AI, they deserved better than abandonment. They deserved a chance. Even if giving them that chance might destroy him. He smiled in the darkness. It was going to be interesting. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 3 days after the operation. Every seat was filled. Every species wanted to understand what had just happened and what it meant for the future. The great hall that had seemed so impressive to Hyunwoo on his first visit now felt smaller. Its ancient grandeur diminished by recent events. Speaker Thorol called the session to order, his reptilian features showing strain. We are here to address humanity's unprecedented action against the Vex Confederation. Multiple violations of Council law have occurred. Territorial sovereignty was breached. Military force was employed without authorization. Diplomatic immunity was violated when Representative Krenak was seized from this very station. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some voices called for sanctions, others for expulsion. A few even suggested military action against Earth. Then President Minji entered the chamber. She walked alone, without guards or advisors, dressed simply in dark blue. Every eye in the vast hall turned to watch her. She moved with steady confidence to the center of the floor, where speakers traditionally stood. And she waited. President Minji, Thorol's voice boomed. You have much to answer for. Your species has committed acts that cannot— My species delivered justice, Minji interrupted calmly. Something this council failed to do. Angry clicking and roars erupted from various delegates. Thorol's scales darkened with fury. You dare speak to this council with such disrespect? I speak truth, Minji replied. Ambassador Hyunwoo was murdered. We provided evidence. You did nothing. So we acted ourselves. You invaded sovereign territory, a Vex delegate shouted. You kidnapped our citizens. We arrested criminals, Minji corrected. There is a difference. Every person we took was directly involved in the assassination. We have proof, evidence that we tried to share with this council before taking action. She activated a display that showed the findings from investigator Do-hyun's report. Chemical analysis, financial records, communication intercepts, witness statements, every piece of evidence that proved Vex's involvement. This information was available to you, Minji said. You chose to ignore it. You chose to let murderers walk free, so we made a choice as well. The council's investigative process takes time, Thoril argued. We cannot rush to judgment based on how much time, Minji demanded. How many years would you have spent forming committees and writing reports while my ambassador's killer lived free? While he planned his next murder, silence fell. Because everyone in that hall knew she was right. The council's investigations were famous for taking decades to reach conclusions. Justice delayed so long it became meaningless. A delegate from one of the smaller species stood. What the humans did was illegal. But can we honestly say it was wrong? The law must be respected, Thoril insisted. The law failed, another voice called out. It failed the ambassador. It failed justice. Maybe the law needs to change, more voices joined in. The assembly split into factions arguing different positions. Some demanded humanity face consequences. Others suggested the humans had simply done what the council should have done. The debate grew heated. Minji waited until the noise died down. Then she spoke again, her voice carrying across the hall. You may not like what we did. You may fear it. But understand this, we did not seek war. We sought justice. We did not attack civilians or invade territory to conquer it. We removed criminals from circulation, and we will try them fairly according to human law, which guarantees them rights and protections that many of your species do not provide. We are not your enemies. We are not conquerors. But we will not allow our people to be murdered without response. If the council will not provide justice, we will provide it ourselves. That is not a threat. It is simply reality. She paused, looking around the hall. You have a choice now. You can sanction us, expel us, even attack us if you dare. Or you can work with us to create a system where justice actually means something, where diplomats can do their jobs without fear of assassination, where accountability exists for those who commit crimes. The old ways have brought you 10,000 years of endless small wars, of unpunished crimes, of justice that moves so slowly it might as well not exist at all. Perhaps it's time to try something new. With that, she turned and walked out. Not fleeing, not retreating, simply leaving because she had said what needed saying. Behind her, the council erupted in chaos. The debates continued for weeks. Delegates argued about humanity's actions from every possible angle. Some species called for harsh punishment. Others quietly admitted that the humans had done what they wished they could do themselves. Many smaller species, those who had suffered crimes without recourse, watched with new hope. And gradually reality settled in. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities no one had suspected. Their stealth technology was decades ahead of anyone else's. Their precision weapons were unmatched. Their intelligence networks were frighteningly effective. Attacking Earth would be costly, perhaps impossible. More importantly, the evidence against the Vex conspirators was undeniable. Once it became public, even the council couldn't ignore it. Several council members who had tacitly approved the assassination were exposed and forced to resign in disgrace. The corruption ran deeper than anyone wanted to admit. In the end, the council issued a formal reprimand to humanity for violating sovereignty laws. And then quietly they changed those laws. New protocols were established for investigating diplomatic crimes. Timelines were set. Accountability measures were added. It wasn't everything humanity wanted, but it was progress. Ambassador So-hee took her seat in the council 6 months after Hyun-woo's death. She was younger than him, sharper-edged, less patient with diplomatic nonsense. She had been his protégé, learned everything from him, and now she would continue his work. The council recognizes Ambassador So-hee of Earth, Speaker Thoril said. His voice lacking its usual contempt, So-hee stood. I propose new regulations regarding trade disputes in the outer colonies. My proposal includes mandatory mediation and clear consequences for violations. She spoke with confidence. And this time delegates listened. They took notes. They asked serious questions. Because they had learned that when humans said something, they meant it. And when they promised consequences, those consequences would come. After the session, several delegates approached her. Some offered condolences for Hyunwoo. Others asked about Earth's technology. A few wanted to discuss potential alliances. The smaller species especially wanted to know if humanity would help them when the Council ignored their problems. "We're not the galaxy's police force," so he told them carefully, "but we believe in justice. If you have legitimate grievances and the Council won't help, come talk to us. We'll see what we can do." It was a careful promise. Not too much, not too little. But it sent a message humanity was watching. The old order, where the strong did as they pleased and the weak suffered, was changing. On Earth, a memorial was built in Ambassador Hyunwoo's honor. Commander Jiwon attended the dedication ceremony, her injuries healed but her heart still carrying scars. The memorial listed not just Hyunwoo's name, but all the diplomats from all species who had died in service without justice. He believed peace was possible, Jiwon said during her speech. He died proving it, and now because of what happened after his death, maybe the galaxy will actually try to achieve it. The trials of the 23 conspirators were broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. They were given lawyers, allowed to present evidence, treated according to human law. It was more fairness than most galactic criminals ever received. Every session was recorded, every verdict explained. Kreenak was found guilty of ordering the assassination and sentenced to life imprisonment. Krevshan was convicted of providing the means and materials. Admiral Shintar was found guilty of conspiracy. Down the list, each person was judged individually, their specific crimes detailed, their punishments proportional. The galaxy watched and learned. This was human justice, firm but fair, based on evidence, not politics. Accountability for actions regardless of species or status. It was different from what most civilizations practiced, and some of them started to think maybe different wasn't bad. Admiral Taeyang received requests from 17 different species, asking for military advisors or technology-sharing agreements. She approved 3 carefully chosen species that shared human values about precision and minimizing casualties. The rest were politely declined. "We're not selling weapons," she told her staff. "We're sharing principles. Anyone can build bigger guns. Teaching restraint and precision is harder but more valuable." Minister Youngman, who had urged diplomatic caution, found his office busier than ever. Species that had ignored Earth for years now wanted treaties and trade agreements. Humanity's reputation had shifted overnight from newcomers to be dismissed to a force to be respected. Was it worth it? Someone asked him during a press conference. All the risk, all the consequences we might have faced? Youngman thought about Hyunwoo, about his dedication to peace, about the galaxy that had let him die without caring. "Yes," he said finally, because the alternative was teaching the galaxy that humans were disposable, that our lives didn't matter. We couldn't accept that. No species should accept that.